each day. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Hello and welcome to Raw Recovery, a Trudging Together podcast. My name is Dion, and we are here for the 12 days of recovery. We are on step 2. Today is day 2 of this. This is also a live, so you might have to put up a little bit with me doing some things here, but we will get to it very shortly. Got that taken care of. I hope everybody's having a good day. Happy Friday. Maybe it's not Friday for you right now because you're listening to the rewatch or the re-listen or the podcast, which is exactly what it is. So I have a little bit more sharing here to do, and we will get going. I appreciate everybody listening in. You'll probably hear comments. I try and make it so that you understand what we're saying over here. We might get distracted here and there. We try and have fun. So we'll get started in just a second here. Usually I wait till about the 3-minute mark to get things going. And we still got another minute left before that happens. So let's kind of review what we learned in step 1. We admitted that we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives had become unmanageable. All right. So maybe let's review. Let's go to page 52 in the big book real quick before we get started on step 2. And let's go over the bedevilments while waiting for some people to show up here. All right. And this is really the unmanageability of it. Your wealth, your status, your money does not count in this. It doesn't matter how many cars you have. That is not what we're talking about. So we need to stop using material things as success for our spiritual progress. All right. We had to ask ourselves why we shouldn't apply to our human problems the same readiness to change our point of view. We're having trouble with personal relationships. We couldn't control our emotional natures. We were prey to misery and depression. We couldn't make a living. We had a feeling of uselessness. We were full of fear. We were unhappy. Couldn't seem to be of real help to other people. Was not the basic solution of these bedevilments more important than whether we should see newsreels of lunar flight? Of course it was. All right. We have reached the 3-minute mark. So for those of you that do the lives, welcome to the Daily Trudge. My name is Dion. I'm your host. If you're here, please say hello, whether you're watching the live or the rewatch. So let's get to our 12 by 12, and we will be starting on page 25. Step 2 is a little bit longer. So a little bit of talking juice, and let's get going. The moment they read step 2, most newcomers are confronted with a dilemma, sometimes a serious one. How often have we heard them cry out, "Look what you have done to us. You have convinced us that we are alcoholic and that our lives are unmanageable. Having reduced us to a state of absolute helplessness, you now declare that none but a higher power can remove our obsession. Some of us won't believe that God exists. Have no faith, whatever. Some of us won't believe in God. Others can't. And still others who do believe that God exists have no faith, whatever. He will perform this miracle. Yes, got us over the barrel, right? But where do we go from here?" So the step is saying, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And what is sanity? Well, that is soundness of mind. But what is the opposite of that? Insanity. And insanity is quoted as doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So we've got to disrupt this, right? In the big book, it'll say lack of power. That was our dilemma. We had to find a power greater than ourselves that could help us. All right. Let's first look at the case of the one who, Let's first look at the case of the one who says he won't believe, the belligerent one. He is in a state of mind which can be described only as savage. His whole philosophy of life, in which he's so glorified, is threatened. It's bad enough he thinks to admit alcohol has him down for keeps. But now, still smarting from that admission, he is faced with something really impossible. How he does cherish the thought that man, risen so majestically from a single cell of primordial ooze, is the spearhead of evolution and therefore the only God that this universe knows. Must he renounce all this to save himself? Probably not. At this juncture, his AA sponsor usually laughs. The newcomer thinks this is just about the last straw, the beginning of the end. And so it is. The beginning of the end of his old life and the beginning of his emergence into a new one. His sponsor probably says, take it easy. The hoop you have to jump through is a lot wider than you think. At least I found it so. And so did a friend of mine who was a one-time vice president of the American Atheist Society. But he got through with room to spare. Now, I'm not big on that example. And it's gotten way too hot in here. I got to change shirts. So give me 30 seconds at the most. I apologize for that. But that's why my stuff is free, man. That's why my stuff's free. So, and I don't lead you anywhere where you have to pay me either. All right. Now, I had to be in a business meeting earlier. And yeah, kind of was boring. But it paid, so. Well, says the newcomer, I know you're telling me the truth. It's no doubt a fact that AA is full of people who once believed as I do. But just how in these circumstances does a fellow take it easy? That's what I want to know. All right. Now, I talk often on this that the first 3 steps don't have any action to them. And here we are talking about your job in this point is actually kind of take it easy. Be nice to yourself. You know, go get a hot dog or something. You know, go do something that you enjoy doing. Spend some time with the family. Get some other things done. Okay. But what you don't really need to focus on is how bad everything is. And that's why we want you to take it easy in the beginning. What else are you learning? Well, you're learning the skill that you're very much going to need in this program. And it's called delayed gratification. And step 2 is the beginning. Actually, step 1 is the beginning of the delayed gratification. You don't get your alcohol. Yeah. So when is that gratification going to come? Well, it's going to come in the steps. And that's why you're delaying it. Because you're also going to get something much better for delaying it. So that agrees the sponsor is a very good question indeed. I think I can tell you exactly how. You won't have to work at it very hard either. Listen, if you will, to these 3 statements. First, Alcoholics Anonymous does not demand you believe in anything. All of its 12 steps are but suggestions. Second, to get sober and stay sober, you don't have to swallow all of step 2 now. Looking back, I found I took it piecemeal myself. Third, all you really need is a truly open mind. Just resign from the debating society, and quit bothering yourself with such deep questions as whether it was the hen or the egg that came first. Again, I say all you need is an open mind. What's the principle of step 2? An open mind, open-mindedness, right? So, you know, it's just one thing leading to another here. You don't have to search the cosmos and do all this deep, huge diving in the beginning to find a little peace. You don't. Step 2 is going to be as hard as you decide to make it. And that's just true for everybody. I did not have a problem with the higher power concept. I was raised Mormon, and I would go to church because I grew up in Utah. You had to go to church twice a week, especially if you were enrolled in a public school. Okay, but I would go, and I just heard damnation this, and you're going to hell if you do that. And I just, I would search and I'm like, I never felt that from God. So I just didn't believe him. And, now I try and see where religious people are right. But that's just like going to an AA meeting where I go in and I take what I need and then I leave the rest. Right. So the sponsor continues, take, for example, my own case. I had scientific schooling. Naturally, I respected, venerated, even worship science. As a matter of fact, I still do, all except the worship part. Time after time, my instructors held up to me the basic principle of scientific progress. Search and research again and again, always with an open mind. When I first looked at AA, my reaction was just like yours. This AA business, I thought, is totally unscientific. This I can't swallow. I simply won't consider such nonsense. I'm not sure why people divide science and a higher power, or let's say religion or whatever. I don't know why they do that. Here's the thing, gravity. Let's just take gravity, and if gravity was just a little off, just by millimeters, I don't know the right scientific term for it, we would not be here. The universe wouldn't be here if that wasn't. What is that? That's perfection. See, the most perfect things in the universe had to happen in order for me to be here. That's bigger than me. I don't know how it all happened. I find it interesting. Maybe one day I'll know. I don't know. All right. But even science, they'll get into it here. I don't want to spoil it. Then I woke up. I had to admit that AA showed results, prodigious results. That's real results. Yeah. I saw that my attitude regarding these had been anything but scientific. It wasn't AA that had the closed mind. It was me. The minute I stopped arguing, I could begin to see and feel. Right there, step 2, gently and very gradually began to infiltrate my life. I can't say upon what occasion or upon what day I came to believe in a power greater than myself, but I certainly have that belief now. To inquire it, I only had to stop fighting and practice the rest of AA's program as enthusiastically as I could. There's one of our first requirements for step 2. I had to stop fighting. I had to realize I'm not God. I'm not God. Okay. And so I stopped fighting everything and everyone. Well, when I did that, I was able to have a little bit more of an open mind. Now, remember this process of not fighting anymore is a process. It is exactly that. I'm not sure what is up, but I do know that there's 2 people here. Nobody said anything. You don't have to. I just want to make sure the chat isn't like failing on you. So if you've been saying something, I'm not replying. I'm not ignoring you. That was the only reason. So I had to stop fighting and practice the rest of the AA program as enthusiastically as I could. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to be enthusiastic all the time. You do the best that you can. You do the best that you can. This is only one man's opinion based on his own experience, of course. I must quickly assure you that AAs tread innumerable paths in their quest for faith. If you don't care for the ones I've suggested, you'll be sure to discover one that suits if only you look and listen. Many a man like you has begun to solve the problem by the method of substitution. You can, if you wish, make AA itself your higher power. Okay. Before I move on. All right. Morning, Brand. Good to see you. You can, if you wish, make AA itself your higher power. Okay. But only for a little bit. That cannot continue. It'll go on later. In step 4, I'm not sure, but it'll say it later in the steps. So remember this, that they will say at this point they have given up their group as their higher power. Okay, group of drunks, I get it, bigger than you, but still a group of fallible people. People cannot be your higher power. Okay, AA cannot be your higher power. It's full of a group of people. Okay. Okay. Make Antifa your higher power. See, it didn't work, did it? Okay. Make Costco your higher power. It's the same thing. It's a group of people doing something, maybe not as good or whatever. Okay. But sooner or later, there's going to be that shift. Okay. And you can start out as small as you want. As small as you want. This is the way I look at it. I have children. Well, aren't we God's children? We're all God's children, right? I do not make hard terms for my children to seek my help. Ever. No, I don't. And therefore, my higher power is the same way. They did not make hard terms for me. All right. Here's a very large group of people who have solved their alcohol problem. In this respect, they certainly are a power greater than you, who have not even come close to a solution. Surely you can have faith in them. Even this minimum of faith will be enough. You will find many members who have crossed the threshold just this way. What did they say? Cross the threshold. It's a crutch to get us there. Fake it till you make it. Nothing wrong with that. Okay? It's like praying for willingness. Because you're not willing, you already have it because you prayed. See? It's the same concept. To realize, oh, it kind of worked, but my trust really wasn't in the right thing. Okay? You ever read Footprints in the Sand? Where he's like, hey, God, sometimes, but the hardest parts of my, when things are going good, there's two sets of footprints. And when there's one set of footprints is really bad. So why did you desert me? And he's all, that's when I carried you. Oh, that's right. I was being carried, wasn't I? I don't even remember it. Interesting. Yeah. All of them will tell you once across, their faith broadened and deepened, relieved of the alcohol obsession, their lives unaccountably transformed. They came to believe in a higher power, and most of them began to talk of God. See, there was a transition there. It's utilizing something to get to somewhere. We're okay with that. It's okay. See, innumerable paths, multiple pathways to recover. Wow. I tell people that AA is the multiple pathway. Like, no, it's not. I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about. Okay. Like, what about this program? Well, that program, there's AA is the only program that helps alcoholics that has a hotline in every freaking city in the United States. The only one. None of them have a hotline. We're the only ones that do. AAers are the only ones on call. The others just get to go live their best lives, man. Hey, and they'll get something out of that. But I want more. I want more. And those other programs aren't going to give it to me. Not that I found. I found this one creates a limitless expansion of growth. So, we better get moving on this because, yeah. All right. Consider the flight of those who once had faith but lost it. There will be those who have drifted into indifference, those filled with self-sufficiency who have cut themselves off, those who have become prejudiced against religion, and those who are downright defiant because God have failed to fulfill their demands. Can they experience tell all these they may still find a faith that works? Oh, yeah. Those are the easy ones, actually. Sometimes AA comes to harder who those so before we get started, the faith seems to come harder. I've noticed it didn't happen to me that had religious training because they have to unlearn a lot of things that they thought that, of whatever they put in their head. I can't speak on it well enough to consider the flight of those who once had faith. Oh, wait a minute. Wrong paragraph. Sometimes AA comes harder to those who have lost or rejected faith than those who have never had faith at all, for they think they have tried faith and found it wanting. They have tried the way of faith and the way of no faith. Since both ways have proved bitterly disappointed, they have concluded there is no place whatever for them to go. The roadblocks of indifference, fancied self-sufficiency, prejudice, and defiance often prove more solid and formidable for these people than any erected by the unconvinced agnostic or militant atheist. Religion says the existence of God can be proved. The agnostic says it can't be proved. The atheist claims proof of the non-existence of God. Obviously, the dilemma of the wanderer from faith is that of profound confusion. He thinks himself lost to any comfort of any conviction at all. He cannot attain in even a small degree the assurance of the believer, the agnostic, or the atheist. He is the bewildered one. Howdy, howdy, ho, Amber. Howdy, howdy, hi. Howdy, howdy, ho. Any number of AAs can say to the drifter, yeah, we were diverted from our childhood faith too. The overconfidence of youth was too much for us. Of course, we were glad that good home and religious training had given us certain values. We were still sure that we ought to be fairly honest, tolerant, and just, that we ought to be ambitious and hardworking. We became convinced that such simple rules of fair play and decency would be enough. Yeah, see, I get that. I understand that. But my brain don't work that way. Even in this religious training, even if it was wrong, the process of which we took it was kind of incorrect too. See, I couldn't understand a lot of this. I couldn't. So here's another one. As material success, founded upon no more than these ordinary attributes to come to us, we felt we were winning at the game of life. This was exhilarating and it made us happy. Why should we be bothered with theological abstractions and religious duties or with the state of our souls here or hereafter? The here now was good enough for us. The will to win would carry us through. But then alcohol began to have its way with us. Finally, all of our scorecards read 0. And we saw that one more strike will put us out of the game forever. We had to look for our lost faith. It was in AA that we rediscovered it, and so can you. So it says here, finally, when all of our cards reads 0. That's step 1. Or it's actually a step before the steps. Okay? It's the gift of desperation. It's the psychic change. I don't want to do this no more. Now we come to another prime problem. And this is the big one in AA. This is most of it. And these people have a hard time even getting into AA. Yeah, these ones will find it the hardest. In fact, the more intelligent you are, the less likely of a chance you have of making it in the program. Kind of fucked, isn't it? But that's what I've seen. That, let me reiterate something real quick. Everything in these that I am saying is opinion. It's stuff that I've seen. It's from my experience. So it isn't really an opinion, but it is experience in the things that I've seen, which is not just one set way, but these are things that I've seen. So to them, many AAs can say, yes, we were like you, far too smart for our own good. We love to have people call us precocious. We used our education to blow ourselves into prideful balloons, though we were careful to hide this from others. Secretly, we felt we could float above the rest of the folks on our own brain power alone. Scientific progress told us there was nothing man couldn't do. Knowledge was all powerful. Intellect could conquer nature. Since we were brighter than most folks, or so we thought, the spoils of victory would be ours for the thinking. The God of intellect displaced the God of our fathers. But again, John Barleycorn had other ideas. We who had won so handsomely in the walk turned into all-time losers. We saw that we had to reconsider or die. We found many in AA who once thought as we did. They helped us get down to our right size. By example, they showed us that humility and intellect could be compatible provided we place humility first. When we began to do that, we received the gifts of faith, a faith which works. This faith is for you too. Now, there's a little part in here, ever heard you're getting too big for your britches? Yeah, that's us. That's us. I'm not in my lane. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. It's 20 minutes until the meeting. Woo! I better read fast. We'll get through it. Another crowd of AAs says we were plumb disgusted with religion and all its works. The Bible, we said, was full of nonsense. We could cite a chapter and verse and we couldn't see the Beatitudes for the begats. And there's the problem. In spots of morality was impossibly good. In other words, it seemed impossibly bad. But it was the morality of the religionists themselves that really got us down. We gloated over the hypocrisy, bigotry, and the crushing of self-righteousness that clung to so many believers in their Sunday best. How we loved to shout the damaging fact that millions of good men of religion were still killing one another off in the name of God. This all meant, of course, that we had substituted negative for positive thinking. Yeah, that's all it is. We're looking at it. I was looking at it wrong, right? After we came to AA, we had to recognize that this trait had been an ego-feeding proposition. In belaboring the sins of some religious people, we could feel superior to them all. Moreover, we could avoid looking at some of our own shortcomings. Self-righteousness, the very thing that we had contemptuously condemned in others, was our own besetting evil. This phony form of respectability was our undoing, so far as our faith was concerned. But finally, driven to AA, we learned better. As psychiatrists have often observed, defiance is the outstanding characteristic of many an alcoholic. So it's not strange that lots of us have had our day at defying God himself. Sometimes it's because God has not delivered us the good things of life which we have specified. As a greedy child makes an impossible list for Santa. More often, though, we had met up with some major calamity and to our way of thinking lost out because God deserted us. The girl we wanted to marry had other notions. We prayed that God would change her mind, but she didn't. We prayed for healthy children and were presented with sick ones or none at all. We prayed for promotions at business and none came. Loved ones upon whom we hardly depended were taken from us by so-called acts of God. Then we became drunkards and asked God to stop that. But nothing happened. This was the unkindest cut of all. Damn this faith business, we said. Man, it still hurts thinking of that. God, I really need to get sober. God, I need to get sober. I don't know what to do, but I wouldn't follow direction. I wouldn't do a lot of things. I wanted to get sober, but I wasn't willing to do the work. It's what it really came down to. I mean, that was the cause and condition. I wanted to get sober, but I wasn't willing to do the work. And that's what I hear a lot. You'll hear people cut down AA a lot, especially sell their own wares and shit. Their own newfangled new way of getting sober and staying sober with their toxic positivity. These ways don't work. We've proven it in the past. So, alcoholism is not some new disease. No, we've been dealing with it for thousands of years, ever since we started crushing grapes, man. Yeah, you bet. Okay, the other thing is we our intelligence as human beings is not improved in 1,000 years. It doesn't. Evolution takes a very long. We will house all the homeless before we evolve again. I'll put it that way, and that ain't never gonna happen, right? Evolving. I mean, the government moves faster than evolving, a lot faster. Okay. So to think that all these other people had done all these things that didn't work, that now just because you have social media that suddenly it works, now that we have Zoom, all these things work now. I just don't want you to be fooled. I call out people all the time. I'm like, why are you selling something that was clearly freely given to you? Why are you selling AA? Why are you doing this? And you never get a straight answer. It's always a political answer. You know, oh, I got 3.5 years. I'm 3 years now, and I've helped thousands of alcoholics. That's a lie. That's a lie. It's just not true. It takes a lot longer than 3 years to help thousands of alcoholics. Right? So, yeah. And that's just defiance in my eyes. It's defiance. Okay. At no time have when we encountered AA, the fallacy of our defiance was revealed. At no time have we asked what God's will was for us. Instead, we have been telling him what it ought to be. No man we saw could believe in God and defy him too. Woo-wee. Hoo-wee, howdy ho. Right. We saw them meet. Oh, in AA, we saw fruits. I had to go back a little bit more. Belief means reliance, not defiance. In AA, we saw the fruits of this belief. Men and women spared from alcohol's final catastrophe. We saw them meet and transcend their other pains and trials. We saw them calmly accept impossible situations, seeking neither to run nor to recriminate. This was not only faith, it was a faith that worked under all conditions. We soon concluded that whatever price in humility we must pay, we would pay. Here's the good news on that. It's at this point, you've already got it. Okay. You've already paid the price for the humility. You've already paid it. Okay. So that's the good news. Well, you've already paid for it. You might as well take it, right? I mean, you bought a car. Okay, you're not going to go pick it up. Still got to make the monthly payments. Pick up your humility. Use it. You're not going to lose your intellect. No. In fact, I found that knowledge becomes power again. Absolutely. It's got to be the right knowledge. It's got to be my higher power's will, not Dion's will. Right? It can't be infused with Dion's shit. Right? Now let's take the guy full of faith, but still reeking of alcohol. Or us big book thumpers that have relapsed and sitting in bars. We're just as bad. Okay. He believes he is devout. His religious observance is scrupulous. He's sure he still believes in God. I'm sure he does. But suspect that God doesn't believe in him. He takes pledges and more pledges. Following each, he not only drinks again, but acts worse than the last time. Valiantly, he tries to fight alcohol, imploring God's help, but the help doesn't come. What then can be the matter? Do you hear every single situation what the problem is? It is the demands. It doesn't. Every situation, all three of them, same thing in common, just called something else. But the cause and condition is defiance. And what is defiance? Playing God in our world, playing God. To clergymen, doctors, and families, the alcoholic who means well and tries hard is a heartbreaking riddle. To most AAs, he is not. It's not a heartbreaking riddle, but it is heartbreaking. It can be, man. I've lost a lot of people in this program. So, there are too many of us that have been just like him and found the riddle's answer. This answer has to do with the quality of faith rather than its quantity. Oh, last night's meeting. We were on step 2. Quality over quantity. This has been our blind spot. What are they saying? Day counting is probably not very good for you. Oh, that's what I say. I'm just kidding. It doesn't say that, but it isn't good for you. We suppose that we had humility when we really hadn't. Okay, now what is that? I thought I had humility, but I didn't understand humility yet, so therefore I did not have humility. All right. We suppose we have been serious about religious practices when upon honest appraisal, we found we have been overly superficial. Or going to the other extreme, we had wallowed in the emotionalism and had mistaking it for true religious feelings. I've done that. Oh, hallelujah, I feel it. But it was just me doing something exciting that release that whatever that makes you feel good. Cortisol, no, that ain't it. Dopamine, right? It's all it was. It wasn't real. Okay. This usually happened when I was still a hooch. So in both cases, we have been asking something for nothing. Can you do me a favor? There's still a cost to a favor. Can you help me move? You're still buying pizza. There's a cost to labor. Time is usually it. Time. The fact that we hadn't really cleaned house so that the grace of God could enter us and expel the obsession. In no deep or meaningful sense have we ever taken stock of ourselves, made amends to those we had harmed, or freely given to any other human being without the demand for reward. We had not even prayed rightly. We had always said, grant me the wishes instead of thy will be done. The love of God and man we understood not at all. Therefore, we remain self-deceived and so incapable of receiving enough grace to restore us to sanity. Few indeed are the practicing alcoholics who have any idea how irrational they are, or seeing they're irrational can bear to face it. Some will be willing to turn themselves problem drinkers, but cannot endure the suggestion that they are in fact mentally ill. They are abetted in this blindness by a world which does not understand the difference between sane drinking and alcoholism. Sanity is defined as soundness of mind, yet no alcoholic, sober idolizing his destructive behavior, whether the destruction fell on the dining room furniture or his own moral fiber, can claim soundness of mind for himself. See, we're all even. I don't care how you came in the program. Doesn't matter how much money you have. Doesn't matter. Nothing matters. It doesn't matter how long you've been drinking. It doesn't matter your gender. It doesn't matter your race. These are not taken into account with alcoholism, which is a mental illness. It is a separate mental illness than other addictions. Okay? Depression and anxiety are two separate mental illnesses. Okay? Now, here's the thing. It's said here, yet no alcohol can, where was it? They are abetted in this blindness by a world which does not understand the difference. Oh, but they cannot endure the suggestion they are in fact mentally ill. So I was mentally ill and turned to alcohol. All the other addictions were trauma happened and then I got addicted to drugs. There's a huge difference there. Or maybe they got in a car accident. Maybe there wasn't any trauma. Maybe it was just physical trauma. Got addicted to oxy. It is much different. That is not necessarily a mental illness. That is trauma and dealing with something. Okay? But we alcoholics, we can be addicted to anything. But not anybody can be an alcoholic. Not any addict can be an alcoholic also. Yeah. Therefore, step 2 is the rallying point for all of us. Whether agnostic, atheist, or former believer, we can stand together on this step. True humility and an open mind can lead us to faith, and every AA meeting is an assurance that God will restore us to sanity if we rightly relieve ourselves to Him. Yeah. Good job, Amber. Let's wrap this up on that. I just called and did a 10-step because of anxiety. Like, oh, I got a tiny bit of resentment, selfishness for being intolerant, and fear. Yeah, you know what? That's just a lot of freaking progress, my friend. That's a lot of progress. To understand that you're even in it. That you're even in it. That's a big thing. Recognition of your feelings and doing something about it is the most esteemable thing that you can do. Is one of them. It is. The most esteemable thing that you can do is doing something for somebody else without anybody knowing about it. I do it all the time. I'd tell you about it, but then it would blow my humility. So, all right. I'll let everybody get out of here so we can get to our respective noon meetings. Amber, let me know which one you're going to. I'll probably hop on it as long as it isn't Trudgers. So thank you, everybody, for being here. I appreciate it. I love you. I love you. Peace out and have a day.